These are the money milestones you need to hit for financial independence.
And Brian, I am so excited about this because we love giving folks money milestones to track the progress on their wealth building journey. So what we've done is we've taken what we believe are the crucial checkpoints that you need to hit on your way to financial independence, and we're going to share them all with you today.
These will also help you to know whether you're ahead of the curve, behind the curve, or right where you need to be. But remember, these are not milestones you need to hit by a certain time to be successful. These are goals to hit along the way as you build your great, big, beautiful tomorrow. Bo, milestone number 1 is going to surprise some people because it's just reaching the simple goal of being at zero.
Yeah, this may seem counterintuitive. You may be thinking, okay, wait, no, we're talking about financial milestones on my path to financial independence, but you're talking about being dead broke. But what we're actually saying here is reaching zero is kind of exciting because what it means is you are not negative. You are not on the other side of the net worth equation. So just getting to a solid starting point is an amazing milestone for folks to hit.
And to make the point, Credit Karma actually did some research, and they found out that 31% of Americans have a net worth of zero or below. And by the way, if you're younger, it's even worse.
Yeah, Gen Zs, 41% of Gen Zs have a negative net worth, and 38% of millennials. So there are a lot of folks that are falling into this camp of not actually being at zero that need to work towards this first net worth milestone.
Now there's good reasons here. I don't want to, because don't think we're throwing shade, because I get it, especially for younger people. There is a why to this. If you think about for younger generations, they just don't have a lot of assets.
That's right.
If anything, they've got things working against them with like not having a lot of time as well.
Yeah, the average first-time home buyer now is 38 years old. So a lot of folks who are early in Gen Z or even millennials have not had time to buy the assets that a lot of people use for building wealth. So they don't have those assets. They don't have the time that they've had those assets or their money working for them so far.
And if you want to know how valuable time is to this whole wealth building process, we thought a good case study where we could take young Yolanda, who's 25 years of age, and then we did Wise Wanda, who's 45 years of age. But here's the good news. They both started saving and investing at a very young age, at $100 a month since age 25. I'll be curious to see what happens.
Yeah, so let's assume that young Yolanda is now age 30. So she started
I was off by 5 years.
She started saving at 25 and she saved until age 30. And then you have Wise Wanda, who started saving at 25 and is now age 45. And let's assume that they both earn the exact same rate of return. They both earn an 8% rate of return on their investments. Well, I want you to recognize at each of their ages, young Yolanda has been doing it for 5 years. She's saved about $6,000. Well, Wise Wanda, as you would expect, has saved $24,000. She's been saving for longer, but that's only part of the story. The real amazing thing is when you actually look at what their money has done, young Yolanda's portfolio has turned into about $7,300, but Wise Wanda, hers has turned into almost $59,000. Even though Wanda had 4 times the savings, she actually had 8 times the portfolio value because of time.
Guys, that's why if you're young watching this, don't give up in those first 5 to 10 years, because there's going to be a lot of, you'll notice that for Yolanda, the contribution and the market value are almost combined. You're like, why am I even doing this? Do not give up, because as Wise Wanda shows you, time is your friend. While you're a billionaire of time, put that money to work, and you're going to see that spread of what compounding growth can do for you is really going to build some amazing things.
Yeah, so not only are people not able to build assets at early ages, and not only have they not had a lot of time, but they're also another headwind. There is a lot of debt, especially for younger people, millennial generation and Gen Zs. They're coming out with more debt than their older counterparts.
Well, this makes sense because education has gotten expensive. So you got student loan debt, and then for a lot of people, I even fell into this, is that when you're building your first wealth building thing, which is your job, you're going to need transportation.
That's right.
And a lot of you don't have cash to go buy a car with cash, so you end up using, even if you're being responsible, like using 23.8 in our guidelines, you're going to probably run up some car loan debt as well.
So the math equation is pretty simple. If you have a small amount of assets and you have a lot of liabilities, you're going to have a negative net worth. So if this describes you and you're someone who's in this situation, how do you stay motivated? How do you get excited about actually being negative and working towards zero? Well, the very first thing is give it time. It's okay if your network is negative. What we care about is progression. What we care about is process towards a goal. So even though you might not be where you want to be right now, if you begin making the necessary decisions that you should be making, over time, you'll begin to watch your financial situation improve.
Also, and this is a heavy one for young people, is focus on what you can control. Mm-hmm. Look, I get it. There is so much social pressure to go out there and live your best life, buy the nicest car you can do, because they want you to essentially fake it until you make it. But as I've shared many times on the show, it's so much better to be rich than to look rich. So actually make good decisions. Be very selective on how much debt you're going to take on. If you're not scared when you take on debt, you're using this tool wrong. And then I want you to also optimize. If you can, the decisions you make, if you choose a moderate car, if you make sure when you're in college that you're choosing a degree or major so that you don't run up student loan debt that exceeds your first year salary, optimizing these decisions can lead you to not only pay off the debt that much sooner, but hopefully start building wealth that much sooner as well.
And then another thing that you can do that will really help you stay motivated is actually track your net worth. And I know it may seem counterintuitive. Guys, I have a negative net worth. Why would I ever want to see that? Well, if you don't know where you are today, how will you be able to assess next year or 2 years or 5 years from now if you've made appropriate progress? So if you're not tracking it, start doing it. And what's amazing is this magical thing will happen in your mind where you will awaken the invisible hand of sound financial decision making, and you'll be slowly start to watch, okay, I was negative now. Okay, but because of the decision I've made, now I'm a little bit less negative, and a little bit less negative, a little bit less negative, to where then I finally hit zero and I can start working towards the second milestone.
And that leads to milestone number 2. And this one, not to steal Bo's thunder in his line, I get so excited about the first $100,000. Now, it's not going to be easy. This is actually, because like I said, there's a lot of quit along the road. You see a lot of people who will start saving and investing, they'll get motivated, but then they stop. This first $100,000 is hard.
And I want to be clear, we're talking about $100,000 of liquid investments. So this would be like IRAs, 401ks, taxable brokerage account, HSAs, those types of things. We want this first 100, this milestone, to be where you've actually got $100,000 working for you. And so the question may be, okay, well, guys, why is this significant? Why is this important? Well, behaviorally, it shows that you've actually begun to master behavior. No one gets to $100,000 of investable assets by accident. It's not just something that you trip and fall into. It likely took some work to get there.
Yeah, it is. And like I said, you're not hitting mastery of your money at this point, but you're definitely showing some signs that your behavior and your good things are starting to reach not a critical mass, but a point of where you're getting traction. And we actually have a case study or an illustration to make our point on this, on why $100,000 is so important.
Yeah, it's wild. If you think about, okay, if you're someone who's going to save $10,000 a year, and you're going to save $833 each month, and again, let's assume that you can make 8%. It will take you about 7.6 years, right at 7.5 years, to build that first 100,000. But if you can stay consistent, you can continue doing that, it'll actually take you about 28 years to build to $1 million. So again, this is just $833 a month. That first 100,000 took 7.5 years, 28 years to get to $1 million. Do you realize that path from 500 to $1 million took the exact same amount of time that it took you to go from 0 to 100,000.
That's the part, and this is something from a behavioral as well as getting affirmations that this is all worth it along the way. That 7.6 years is going to feel like a long time. But look at the good news. The second 100,000, meaning going from 100 to 200, was 4.7 years. We almost cut it in half. And then it was 3. Then it was a little under 3. Then it was 2. And that's what the part that just shows the power of compounding growth. And when you do hit some form of critical mass where your money is working harder than you do, more to come on that. The fact that it can grow from 500,000 to $1 million in less time than it took to get that first 100,000, that's the stuff that gets you excited. Just don't fall off the road to success, because you get distracted by consumption decisions and all the other things when you're young that seems like you have so many Americans that fall off.
Now, wealth building can be a slow process, but there are things that you can actually do to speed it up. And one of the biggest things you can do is your behavior, how you save, how you build. I mean, we already said that if you save $10,000 a year, $833 a month, it'd take you about 7.5 years to get to $100,000. But do you realize if you can save $1,000 a month, you can drop that time to 6.4 years to get to $100,000? If you can save $1,500 a month, now you can get to $100,000 in 4.5 years. And if you can save $2,000 a month, starting right now, it would only take you 3.5 years to build up to $100,000. So if you can put in the hard work, you actually have the ability to influence how fast your money grows.
Now remember, we've there's a theme here. Sticking with it and being consistent is going to be a big part, but then also remembering that your savings rate is more important than even what your rate of return is in the beginning. So if you can focus on, once again, what you can control, which is your savings rate and your behavior of sticking with it, you'll be that much better for it.
And one of the things that will let you stick with it, again, is tracking. Are you doing an annual net worth statement? We have a tool that you can use out at learn.moneyguide.com that you can literally fill out for last year, for this year, and for all the years moving forward so that you can track your progress. So you can see, okay, how far am I from that 100,000? How quickly can I get there? What things can I change to move there even faster so that once I hit 100,000, then I can move on to milestone number 3.
This is one of those, I call it a healthy habit. I'll even say for some of us, it turns into a healthy addiction, is if you actually do these positive behaviors, you're going to see these small wins start to stack. And then one day you're going to look back and go, how the heck did I get here? Trust me, this works. We have a whole client base of people who can give you, and when we do our wealth surveys, it shows this stuff works. You just have to stick with it.
All right, so milestone number 1 was getting to 0. Milestone number 2 was getting to 100,000. Now let's talk about milestone 3, and this isn't a specific dollar figure, but it's more what your money can do, because at milestone number 3, your money is actually saving harder than you do. For example, if you save $5,000 this year, but your portfolio makes $6,000, your portfolio has added more to the pot in a given year than you did.
Yeah, I'll just tell you from a behavioral standpoint, like I said, we know that in the beginning it feels hard because you're just not getting a lot of feedback that what you're doing is actually going to pay off, but you do this long enough, it is amazing. You'll get that quarterly statement and you'll say, wait a minute, I just noticed the change in value and the income combined is more than what I saved. It's going to feel really good. And I'm going to even say, and we'll more to come on this, when you start comparing that then to what you make, and you're like, oh my gosh, I see how money as a tool can be so valuable. So we want to just kind of give you some feedback on what are the numbers that's going to allow you to kind of have as a goal so that you can replace even what your savings rate is.
Yeah, if you think about this, if you have a portfolio worth $87,500 and you make 8% on that portfolio, you will have made $7,000 a year. That's enough to max out your Roth IRA. So an $87,500 portfolio could max out your Roth IRA every year. If you have a portfolio that has $294,000 in it and it makes 8%, well, that's enough to max out your 401k at $23,500. So what's really fun is as you're tracking that net worth statement every year, you know exactly what you're saving. You know what your 25% is. But then when you see that your portfolio starts knocking off some of those big milestones as well, it gets super, super exciting.
I think it's important. This doesn't mean you stop. I mean, because that's the thing. I don't want you getting excited in your 20s when you start to reach some traction and it's exceeding your Roth. And I don't want you to quit when your money is making more than you put in your 401k. This is supposed to be almost like a virtual high five where you look at your army of dollars and be like, we're in this together. It's not just me and my discipline anymore. It's now the traction point where the money is starting to work. And if you want to actually do this for yourself, because it's fun to see these illustrations, but you're like, well, where's that point actually going to happen for me? we've got something pretty exciting. We've actually been working really hard behind the scenes. The content team's been working. We have a compound interest calculator. You got to go play with this thing. And what I like about it is it's going to motivate you, because if you go to moneyguy.com/resources, you're going to put in the variables. But then what's cool is when it gives you the feedback and calculates, it's going to say, hey, but if you do a little bit more, look at what this does for you. It just gives you some little nudges to keep you motivated, to keep you on point, so you reach your great, big, beautiful tomorrow that much sooner.
That's exactly right. Remember, this is a path. This is a journey that you're on, and we're talking about milestones. And so the time between when your money starts saving harder than you do and milestone number 4 might be a decent chunk of time. So you want to make sure you're doing things to keep yourself motivated, like using the tools at moneyguy.com/resources, because milestone number 4, I think, is the one that gets the most press. This is the one that everyone talks about. This is the one that books have been written about. And it's when your net worth hits 2 comma land, when it crosses over $1 million.
Now, net worth is a big thing, because net worth includes your investments, which we get super excited about, but it also includes use assets, like your home equity. If you think about what your home is worth, subtract out what you have in a mortgage, you probably have some equity there. So it includes that. It includes your use assets like your vehicles, all those type of things. And it is something definitely to be celebrated that you cross into 7-figure status, because this is what's interesting to me. When I saw this stat, only 9% of Americans are millionaires. So if you stack up you with 100 people, there's only going to be 9 people out of that 100 that are likely going to cross into millionaire status.
Yeah, it is pretty elite and pretty prestigious company. But there is something we want to make you aware of, because there is something that has happened over these past couple of years. There was some great data that came out from the Federal Reserve that showed, okay, how has net worth increased across from 1989 all the way till 2022? And then what did financial assets, so basically net worth excluding home values, how much did that increase? And what you can see is a lot of the increase that we've seen in the late 20-teens and early 2020s is from housing prices increasing. It's not so much because people are saving more and building more. A lot of people are now hitting net worth millionaire status simply because the value of their homes have gone up so substantially.
I felt like this needed a reminder. I remember when this data point came to me, and the headline was, the net worth for Americans is up like 35%. And I was like, hot diggity dog. All this hard work is paying off. People are doing what they're supposed to. And then I saw this stat, and if you look at the financial assets, that line is actually flat.
Fairly flat.
And I was like, oh my gosh. So people aren't actually saving and investing more. It's just because we went through this inflationary period, their houses went up in value. That's a problem, guys. So we said, hey, we need to kind of educate you on the pros and the cons of your home equity. It's a good thing. Look, I'm proud of you for having that net worth increase because of home equity, but you should go into it with your eyes open so you don't get a false sense of security.
Yeah, so what are the benefits? What are the pros? Well, one, if your home equity has caused you to be a millionaire, congratulations, you are a millionaire. It is something worth celebrating. And in reality, you could access that equity. Maybe you could take out a home equity line, or you could do some sort of cash out refinance. So it is there, and it very well could be a great planning tool if at some point in your financial journey, you plan on downsizing. So there are opportunities where you can realize the value of an appreciated primary residence. Those are the benefits, but it's not all benefits. There is a downside to being a net worth millionaire, with the majority of that being in your home.
Yeah, I mean, here's the cons. You get to retirement and you're 7-figure net worth, but you can't. You'd have to sell the house to use the equity in the house. So it turns out that you're now captured by this being a use asset, because it doesn't feed you unless you take on debt or all these other bad decisions. And that's why I say, and I've already kind of alluded to this, it's the second con, is that it can give you a false sense of financial security.
That's right.
How many people do I hear in their 30s and 40s, they're like, I'm a millionaire. Now, and you're like, okay, you're great. Congratulations. How much of that's in your 401k, your IRA, and your brokerage accounts, so that when you retire, you can actually have something that pays the bills? If all of that is because your house is appreciated because of this inflationary period, That's something that ought to concern you a little bit. It's great. It's going to look good on your net worth statement, but it's not necessarily something that's going to feed the family.
So then as you think about moving through your milestones, that's why we want you to move from just being a net worth millionaire to milestone number 5, where you are actually a liquid millionaire. This
Big
means
deal.
when you add up all of your investment accounts, this is your IRAs, your Roth IRAs, your 401ks, your HSA, your emergency fund, all the liquid assets you have available to you, you add those up and they get into the 7-figure point. Now you've done something pretty stinking powerful.
Yeah, as Bo just said, this is not your home equity. This is not your business assets. This is how much you have in these liquid investments. And this leads to our favorite thing, because I can't say bowling point. We call it the bowling point. God, they sound the exact same. That is a speech problem if you've ever seen one. If it had me in elementary school, they'd pull me aside right now. But look at this. If you had a portfolio with $1,000 and it has a 10% gain, it's going to make $100. Now that's great. That's cool, but it doesn't really change anything. But if you go into this is why, once again, $100,000, you make 10% on $100,000. $10,000. That's probably replacing a lot of your labor at that point. That's pretty exciting stuff. And then you can imagine you reach 7-figure status with $1 million. It makes 10%. $100,000. That's starting to feel really good. And this is why liquid net worth, where assets are growing in the background and you can actually use and consume this to replace your labor, super exciting stuff.
Now, I can already hear the trolls out there saying, hey, guys, no. $1 million is not enough. Oh, $1 million is nothing. Well, you know what? You got to get to 1 million before you get to 2 million, before you get to 3 million, before you get to 4 million. So $1 million is still something worth celebrating. What I think is so exciting is how aggressively you want to pursue this goal is up to you. Because just like we said, you can influence how quickly you move to $100,000. You can also influence how quickly you move to $1 million. If you invest $1,000 a month, starting from zero, it'll take you about 25 and a half years to get to $1 million. That's a long, steady path to millionaire status. But if you can double that and you save $2,000 a month, you can hit millionaire status in 18.4 years. If you can invest $3,000 a month, you can hit millionaire status in 14 and a half years. And if you can invest $4,000 a month, even starting at zero, you can actually hit millionaire liquid status in just over 12 years.
I think this is a perfect illustration in the fact that we heard historically it takes the typical millionaire 28 years. They reach it around age 49 years of age. But when we've had generational warfare in our content room, because we do have Gen X represented. I'm not a boomer, guys. I'm Gen X. We've got millennials, and then, of course, we got Gen Z. Gen Z seems to be really going at it. I mean, for being as young as they are, a lot of them want to get there even faster. And I think it's amazing that if you can be as aggressive as saving $4,000 to $5,000 a month, you can cut the edge. Instead of it being 28 years, if you're doing $4,000 a month, it's going to be 12 years. So you are in control. If you are one of those people that's really fortunate, you've made some good decisions, you've landed some great opportunities, you can actually exploit. Not only are you young and have time on your side, but you can actually build that bowling point that much faster.
That bowling point. I love it. So, so some of these milestones we've talked about, some of them have been dollar specific, $0, $100,000, $1 million. And some of them have been more, okay, what can your money do? Well, milestone number 6 is another what can your money do? We've already talked about in your financial journey, you hit this milestone where your portfolio is actually able to save more than you do. It actually puts more into the pot than you do from your savings behavior. Well, milestone number 6 gets really, really exciting because this is the point where your money actually works harder than you do. It can actually generate more return than you can in income.
Now, look, I do want to make sure we clarify. This is not financial independence.
Nope.
This is because financial independence means that you're in and we'll cover this in a second, it means that you're in such a good situation, good, bad, you're going to be okay. But it is worth noting that in milestone number 6, you're going to go through some periods where you have a good quarter, a good year. Well, all of a sudden, you're going to realize, wowzer, this is what these guys are talking about with this critical mass point, is I am making more money from my investments than I do from working. And that's something to be celebrated. And we actually want to put together a case study so you can see what we're talking about here.
Think about these numbers. If you, at your job, you earn $60,000 a year. Well, if you had a $750,000 portfolio and over the course of a year that portfolio had an 8% rate of return, your portfolio would have made $60,000 literally while you were sleeping. It earned just as much as you. If you make $90,000 a year, you would need a portfolio of about $1.125 million, earning 8% to replace that income. If you make $120,000 a year, once your portfolio hits $1.5 million bucks at an 8% rate of return, it can grow each year more than you earn in your wages. And you've already said this, Brian. This is not financial independence necessarily, but it's close and it's pretty exciting. You know the way that you're going to know this is happening? You know how you're going to recognize that you've hit this milestone? By tracking your net worth statement every single year, making sure that you actually see what your dollars are doing on your journey to financial independence.
Yeah, and I just, not to be but I'm the old man on the porch, so it's okay. But sequence of returns risk is there. Inflation is definitely floating around out there. And look, but I'll say something positive. We used 8%. There are years where you might make 12 to even 15%. And that's why it will come even faster with less portfolio value. Right. But that's why you have to understand what that number is actually showing you when you celebrate it. But then no, there's one more milestone I need to understand, because I know that market returns are not always up. There's definitely going to be some volatility in my future. And that's milestone number 7, financial independence. Which, Bo, if we're talking about the whole enchilada here of making sure somebody can actually walk through that threshold of now counting on their portfolio to replace their wages and their work, what does that look like?
Yeah, this is the point where your portfolio has reached the stage where you no longer have to go out and work anymore. You don't have to use your brain or your hands or your back to go out and generate wealth. You have done the hard work of building a nest egg that can now provide for you, not just this year, not just next year, but for the rest of your life. You have a portfolio of assets that can work for you so that you don't have to work anymore. This is the point where you now get to own your time. You get to do what you want, when you want, the way you want, on your terms, because you've reached that critical mass.
Well, that's what a lot of people, because we wanted to give some benchmarks. It's just fun from a mathematical perspective. Safe withdrawal rates.
Sure.
And look, we chose 4%. I know some of you in the comments will be like, we could have done 4.5. And, there's all kind of variables that you can change, but we felt like it was still a cool exercise, kind of napkin financial planning of saying, hey, what if we use the 4% rule of thumb? Because historically that's a pretty good indicator you're going to be okay through volatility. If you need $50,000, a $1.2 million portfolio is going to protect you. You're going to be okay. $100,000 portfolio, $2.5 million. $150,000 is what you need in retirement. Close to $3.7 million. Pretty incredible stuff.
Yeah, I think it's wild that these numbers, you see them like, okay, guys, is it really that easy? Oh, okay. So as soon as I hit 1.25 and I make, that's where I can check out. Well, maybe. I mean, 4% is really helpful and it's good back of the napkin math. But when it comes to your personal situation, we would argue that back of the napkin math is not good enough. You need to actually stress test your financial plan. You need to say, okay, how much am I going to have in living expenses? And what is my travel budget going to look like? And when am I going to take Social Security? And what's that Social Security benefit going to look like? And how many weddings am I going to have to pay for? And how often do I replace my cars? And what's my health care going to look like? And where am I going to park the RV? And all of these unique financial questions specific to you. 4% withdrawal rate is a great rule of thumb for generally coming up with an idea of where you ought to be. But when it comes time for you to actually make the assessment, am I at financial independence? Have I reached the milestone? You will do that once you've actually stress tested your plan and you have a high level of confidence. And no matter what unknown unknowns come my way, I've accounted for all the variables that I can, and I've controlled the controllables, and I have a high level of confidence that I can now enter into this phase of life knowing that my portfolio can provide for me for the remainder of my life.
Look, finance, when it gets to this level, is definitely personal finance. Every one of us is going to have different goals, different things. Nobody gets all like fingerprints. It comes to us, and I see everybody has different structures. They have different goals. And that's why I love running a stress test because it's a custom plan to you. And here's the other part that even super brilliant, because you're financial mutants, we know the threshold is so high for people who are consuming our content, is that even if you are brilliant, this is your first retirement. You've only gone through this once. Why wouldn't you get with somebody who's done this hundreds, if not thousands of times with success for their clients? Because it's just going to protect you so you don't have that learning curve, because you are the CEO of a multiple seven-figure enterprise. Is it worth taking the risk that you can run this thing aground? You just don't know what you don't know. And that's why I'd encourage you, go to moneyguy.com/become a client. Or you just go to moneyguy.com. You'll see all of our resources. You'll see the Become a Client link. That way you can even watch the video where we kind of walk you through what we think the benefits are. The big thing is that I realize that a lot of people get so busy. You're successful. I love partnering with, because for a lot of times it's not no, it's yes and. What can we help you fulfill on your goals and give you permission, help you feel like you can walk away from, because it's so hard to go from saver and being so disciplined to now you're going to be a consumer, when in your entire life you've been told that's the worst thing you can do. So it's hard for mutants to kind of let go. We're going to leave the porch light on and help you work through those decisions. So go make sure you're taking advantage of all the free stuff, but then complete the drill and fulfill the abundance cycle. I'm your host, Brian Preston, Mr. Bo Hansen, Money Guy team, out.
The Money Guy Show is hosted by Brian Preston and Bo Hansen. Brian and Bo are partners with Abound Wealth Management. Abound Wealth Management is a registered investment advisory firm regulated by the Securities and Exchange Commission in accordance and compliance with the securities laws and regulations. Abound Wealth Management does not render or offer to render personalized investment or tax advice through The Money Guy Show. The information provided is for informational purposes only, may not be suitable for all investors, and does not constitute financial, tax, investment, or legal advice. All investments involve a degree of risk, including the risk of loss.